What's up, Canes fans? This is the Canes Insight Daily Podcast powered by Anajar and Levine. We are coming to you every day as promised. Loaded show today. We're going to be talking about some blue chip prospects that just got crystal ball to the Miami Hurricanes with Raw CEO Jose Duasso, who coached both of these individuals, plus more prospects that he has a lot of familiarity with. First, want to tell you about our friends at Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. These are blue chip lawyers. Talk about blue chip players. They're blue chip lawyers. If you've been injured in an accident, could be entitled to significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Don't deal with the 2 stars. Deal with the 5 stars. Take back control of your life with Anajar and Levine. They don't get paid till you get paid. Also want to talk about our friends at Caneswear. That's where I got this Miami Hurricanes Orange Bowl shirt. They got all kinds of products like that. A lot of Orange Bowl memorabilia. We're actually in the shadow of the Orange Bowl here in the CanesInSight studios. They got that. They got Miami Heat, Hurricanes, baseball. They got Inter Miami, Marlins, you name it. They got it. So go to caneswear.com if you're not located close to the store in Davie. If you are, head down to the store in Davie Arrowhead Plaza. It is football heaven. All the TVs, great customer service. If not, caneswear.com, must have for Miami sports fans. All right. We are here with the CEO of one of the top 7-on-7 programs in the country. Finished number 2 last year in their first season. Now they're going for that number 1 spot. Over 300,000 followers on TikTok. They are hoping TikTok does not get banned, so they can keep that rolling. This man is a foodie, an aficionado as well. He's been to more destination weddings than anyone on the planet, and he is a good friend of the show, Jose Duasso. Jose, how you doing?
Thanks for having me on, D-Money, in the heart of Little Havana, where the roots are, shadows of Orange Bowl.
That's right. You're used to doing this in the Miami Beach studios. My kids running around, my wife cooking up some food. This is a little more sophisticated and legit. We got the TV, we got the whole setup. So, we had to upgrade for the CEO of Raw 7-on-7.
I appreciate it.
Now, you had a big weekend. You guys went out to battle New Orleans, huge tournament, had a good performance. Tell me about the weekend, how it went.
Finally was able to put it together as a program. We've split it a little bit, trying to find our identity after last year. We had a very, very special group. But it really came together this weekend. We're hitting the deep ball. We probably have the most special receiving core in the country. Our attitude is the Detroit Bad Boys, old school Canes. Like, we play bully ball. We're loud. We're obnoxious. We're Dade County football, even though we do have guys from other places. But we play with that South Florida identity, and our coaching staff lets you know it.
And we're going to go over these players one by one, but just for people who don't know, Cortez Mills, Amari Wallace, Dallas Wilson, Ben Hanks, Drake Stubbs, Nashawn Montgomery, Aaron Gregory, number 1 receiver in next year's class. So a stacked roster, a stacked receiving room that you took to New Orleans.
Yeah. Our receiving core went crazy. It's fun to watch the guys I've put together. Like, I've been doing this a while. I've been coming on as a guest with you and Pete for, I would say, probably 10 years now. This is by far the most special receiving core I've ever put together. My staff did a great job recruiting these guys. I've kind of taken a step back in the recruiting role unless they need to bring in Mariano Rivera for the big guns. But no, we've established a great brand. I've established a great crew of guys that do what's needed, and we make it happen. We make it shake. I'm really happy with this Team Raw. I know I've come on as the Immortals. I think I've come on as Fire. I've come on as Nightmare. Raw's my last stop, but it's been something that's been very fun to grow with a very special group of guys and players.
So let's get into it from a Miami perspective, right? So these are kids that are on Miami's radar. Now, I'm not going to ask you about the recruiting process because I know you let the kids make their own decisions, even though you're a Miami fan. But these are kids that Miami fans want to hear about. 2 of them just got crystal ball to Miami. So I want to talk about some of their games and some of the kids Miami's recruited. And then also we'll get into the players that you went against. So starting with right at the top, Cortez Mills. He was the talk of the town. 247 was talking about him. I know there's been some viral clips on the Raw social media of him making one-handed catches. I saw him in Under Armour, the podcast we did after the Under Armour. I was hyping him up. I was very, very, very impressed. 1,600-yard receiver. You've coached some great ones. You have some great ones on this team. Tell me about Cortez Mills from Homestead, who just got crystal ball to Miami.
Mr. Big Playmaker. Like, when you need a big play, you go to Cortez. He's going to catch it one-handed. He's going to fade you 2 hands. But no matter what, even if you're covering him, he's going to catch that ball if it's in his general vicinity of catch radius, which he has one of the most impressive catch radiuses I've been around. He definitely has deceptive speed. He ain't Keenan Allen type of guy, but he's 6'1", could move. I really compare his game to like the Allen Robinson of the Jacksonville Jaguars when he kind of came onto the league and put on a clinic. Allen's maybe a little bit bigger than him. I think Cortez will grow into his frame, but he wears a size 3XL gloves. He's got big mitts. He could go up and grab the ball. I think you saw that at Under Armour. A guy was on his coverage and he just went on his head. And this was a deep ball. This wasn't a fade route. This is a 40-yard throw. Like, you have a guy that's able to make contested catches at any level of the field in that short passing game, that middle passing game, and that deep ball. He is a deep ball threat, but can play all the underneaths.
I want to talk about his intangibles for a second. You coach Camp Kitchens. You had Camp Kitchens on your roster. Feels like yesterday, but now he's already in the combine, already, name hanging in the rafters of the IPF as an All-American. You were telling me back then on this podcast about how special he was intangible-wise. So you told me about intangibles before. With Mills, something that jumped out to me was this guy had a concussion in the battle tournament. Probably hurt you guys in terms of winning the whole thing, right? Because you guys are so close and you're missing a great player like that. But the fact that he goes up and makes that play, and I heard he made the catch as he got hurt in like a 7-on-7 in off season, basically risking his body like that. What can you tell me about the kid, Cortez Mills?
He's going to put his body on the line. I think if you watch the state championship game versus St. Thomas Aquinas, was having a little bit of a quiet game, broke loose down the seam, safety right on his tail, and he just dove and let his body out. Like, you could separate a shoulder like that. You could get a concussion easily. He's going to put it all on the line for his team to win, and that's one of the best traits that he could have. Like, ball's coming his way, he's going to do anything to catch that ball. He's just not going to watch the ball go past his head, which is a great trait to have, because some of those 50-50 balls could sometimes be an interception. So he's going to make sure that ball's not going to get intercepted either.
What routes, when you dial it up for Mills, do you feel most comfortable with? What do you think he really excels?
His slant is one of the best slants in the country. I think if you brought on my offensive coordinator, Tommy Schuler, who's one of the most highlighted receivers in Dade County history, had 4,000 receiving yards at Marshall. He loves Cortez's slant route, loves his deep ball. He could run every route early in the tree. That's the difference with a lot of these kids, and I'll give the credit to the Homestead staff. Herm down there, he's done a great job developing him as a wide receiver. He could run his routes. He has the whole route tree, and that's something rare in South Florida because kids really don't get coached up down here.
Yeah, especially down south. I mean, look, we've seen some kids come out, not that they weren't coached up, but just whatever they were asked to do in their offense. And, high school coaches are trying to win their games. So to say they don't teach these guys certain things, they're trying to win games for their high school program. But I think of Southridge with Mark Pope. He wasn't running all these different kind of routes, very much up and down, and that's held him back at the next level. So with Cortez Mills, you're telling me is you think he might be somebody that as the body comes together, he can play early.
Yeah, his route, he hit a corner. So there's a clip where the throw's very impressive, but then when you see the route on a corner route, you're like, what the hell was that? Just plants his foot and knows how to stem, get the guy to bait, and he goes the other way. Like that, he's a technician. Like he is very, very special.
So switching to the other side of the ball, somebody who is also crystal ball by 247 to Miami. A lot of buzz about Miami with him in Amari Wallace out of Central. Safety / corner, very productive with terms of interceptions. Kind of put up numbers on the interception side, similar to your guy, Camp Kitchens. What can you tell me about Amari Wallace's game?
Very freaky. I would say he's a freak athlete, instinctual, very similar to Cam on the field. He is a puppy child off the field, but in a good way, like just heart of gold, makes you laugh, loves to talk, incredible kid. But on the field, he's going to knock your shit loose. I think if you go back to that Chaminade game, he hit CJ Bailey so damn hard. And CJ Bailey is a 6'5" quarterback. He might be a skinny dude, but that's still a big dude in high school terms. And Amari put it on him. He could play the coverage game excellent, could play the nickel. He's that strong safety. He could play the free. So like he's kind of that jack of all trades for that safety position they want now, that you could put him in the box, you could put him up high. Yeah, he's a little short, but I would say he's the same frame as Cam coming out of high school. So just 5'11", probably going to be all of 205 in college. So I'm not scared about his height. I think it's been proven that a 5'11" safety could be very dominant in the next level. But like I said, instinctual. There's a play that if you go back to when we played the Trillion Boys in OT7 Orlando, our nickel jumps the route to intercept it. But if you watch, he started at corner for us last year. If you watch the play, Amari Wallace hurdles a 6-foot receiver. Like I'm talking about Vince Carter, Olympic dunk over that center that was trying to take the charge, jumps over the receiver. And if that nickel didn't jump it, Amari would have probably had the craziest interception I've ever seen in my life. Still, our nickel made a great play on the ball. But if you go back to that clip, and you can find it on YouTube, OT7 Orlando, Miami Raw versus Trillion Boys. End of the game, game-winning pick, but Amari clears that corner, that receiver, and I was just like, what the hell did Amari just do? So shows you the freak athleticism in him with the instincts like, I'm going to get this interception any way possible.
One player that I know is extremely high on Miami's board is Dallas Wilson out of Tampa. Big, very talented receiver. You've seen him up close as a receiver in this loaded receiving core. What can you tell me about Dallas Wilson's game?
He is absolutely disgusting. I will say one thing. He is so good and so raw. It's very scary. He's got one of the highest ceilings in the country I've been across. His physical build as a high school junior is impressive. He's 6'4" and built like he could step into a college program right now. And that's, I don't think he lives in the weight room. So like it's very, very impressive to see this kid's build.
Do you see him more as a go up and get it kind of receiver, a catch and run receiver, a run by you receiver? What do you see his strengths on the field with his build?
I think he could run by you. He's going to go up over you. He's going to go underneath you. He has a good route concept. He knows how to use his body, his big frame to block off that corner right behind him on slant routes. But he's also a 50-50 specialist. We have a few of those on our team: Cortez, Dallas, Nay, Donovan. But no, Dallas' ceiling's very scary for what he is. Like, you could see it in my face. Like, you get that guy, he's a potential top 10 pick if everything works out the way it should.
Oh, look, I know Miami's really high on Dallas Wilson. It must be lucky if you're Ty Hawkins, the TCU commit quarterback that you've been telling me about. I heard him on the Ivans podcast earlier today. They were talking him up. Must be nice to be thrown to these guys that can go up and get the ball. You mentioned this receiving core. Do you think I've heard, and while we're talking about Dallas Wilson, I've heard from coaches that Florida's really loaded this year in receiver, more so than in other years. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Us and South Florida Express's receiving core is very, very serious, with the majority coming from from Florida. I'll give those guys their props. They have a pretty nice core of receivers, but it shows that what Florida has to offer. Vernell Brown's a guy that is freakish, and Jamie French as well. You have the Josh Moore kid who doesn't play 7-on-7 football out of West Broward.
Yep.
Who's a freak show 6'5" big body receiver. But yeah, this is in Florida. This is the best receiving core. You have the Donovan kid that plays with us out of IMG. That's just an absolute stud. Nation at Central. Like you could whiff on this class alone in the state of Florida, and I would say you're probably like 10 to 12 deep. You have the Boggs kid out of, I want to say Coco.
Yep, committed to Ohio State. Javon Boggs.
He's a stud too. So like you have a list of Florida receivers that are quite impressive this year.
You even got like Sterling, who you have. I think is he at Central?
Yeah, we call Mr. Zay Flowers. Like that's the guy that leaves South Florida. Just because he's not the tallest guy, but he's kind of built like a nice little decent sized high school running back. Very explosive. I would say he's a 4.4 guy. leaves South Florida, ends up at a program and becomes a draft pick. And then us Canes fans are like, how the hell did we let this guy leave South Florida? Just one of those.
Yeah, I agree. Just watching him, he caught my eye watching Central last year. And then
I know you're a big production guy versus Gorman and Shamanon. He had, I want to say, averaged 150 receiving yards and 1 or 2 touchdowns each game. So it just tells you versus the top tier talent he was producing.
And he can run too. Put some weight on him and he can do some things. Now when I went to Under Armour, I was very impressed, not just by the receivers, but also the defensive backs locally. I think overall talent in South Florida is not where it's been, but wide receiver and DB, I think, are on the high end.
I would say wide receiver, DB, there's a big drop off. There's definitely some elite DBs down here, but then from there, it's a pretty significant drop off. I would say wide receivers significantly more loaded than DBs. Even at anybody's tryout, you're gonna have 80 receivers show up and 20 DBs show up. That's just the case in today's game. But yeah, it is a top heavy DB class, I will say.
And I want to focus on that top. And that's what I was really referring to. It's just the guys that Miami's going to be after. There's been times in the past few years where DB, there hasn't been those total package guys with size, speed, ability. But you have one on your team in Ben Hanks, who out of Booker T, major Miami target. They just released the top 40s. They didn't say the times, but they said who had ran the top 40s in the South, basically the South circuit of Under Armour camps. Ben Hanks was on that list. I saw him up close, even though he was very skinny, 6'1". He was a total natural corner, very fluid, making plays on the ball. Baseball player, just finished first at the Bronco Nation track meet in the 400 with 49.28. So that's just what I know. You've seen him up close. He's on your squad. What can you tell me about Ben Hanks at corner?
Just calm, cool, collective, very smooth, wipes out his side of the field. We really don't got to worry about anything that's getting thrown his way because he usually has these guys locked up. If someone's scoring on him, it's just some broken coverage, but that's 7-on-7. We don't practice and that type of stuff. But when Ben was on his A game this weekend, didn't allow any catches thrown his way. He's the total package.
Switching to the safety position, a bigger body guy now. Hilton Drake Stubbs out of Mandarin, same school that gave us Derek Plaz last year for the Hurricanes. Jamie French's school, they were in the state championship last year. Big guy. Safety's kind of interesting position in 7-on-7 because some of the more physical guys can't show that aspect of their game. But from what you've seen from Drake Stubbs, where does he stack up? Is he as good as the national hype top 100 type player?
Oh, like he's up there as the best safety in the country for me. I will say how I do have the best wide receiver room in the country. I have the best safety room in the country. I have Amari Wallace. I have Hilton Drake Stubbs. I have Anquan Fegans. But if you're talking about guys that just in today's game, what do you want your safety to do? Take the ball away? That's Drake Stubbs, ball hawk. That's the one word to describe him. Where the ball is, he's at. And he's either taking it away, causing a fumble. He's a playmaker. He reminds me a lot of the angles he takes. He kind of similar to Cam, just bigger body, just of the ball hawk ability, just instinctual. He made a play this weekend that he dropped the interception, but I had like a deja vu moment in Battle New Orleans because I did win that tournament with Cam's group. Cam went crazy with like 8 interceptions that tournament, 6 interceptions. And I remember Cam breaking on a ball when he was in a robber coverage, which he takes away the middle of the field. And I looked at Drake and I was like, wow, I got like chills watching that because I've seen that before. You don't make that. Not many safeties have that break and an explosive instinct to jump those underneath routes. And Drake showed that. He shows the traits that are special that you want to see at the next level.
Another safety who is no longer on Raw, but you were really the first person to put me onto him because at that time
he was a Belen guy.
He was a my alma mater, Belen Jesuit, now at Columbus, basketball player. Should have mentioned Ben Hanks earlier. The baseball background, loved that. Bryce Fitzgerald with the basketball background as well. Two-way player.
D-Money loves his dual sport athletes.
Oh, yeah. And it proves it in the draft every year. We'll see it in a month. But then this guy also had tremendous testing, which I think people were watching, just like Ben Hanks. He was on the list of the top 10 40s. So what can you tell me? Again, this is not a raw player, but someone that you have watched from the young age. Bryce Fitzgerald, the safety out of Columbus.
Perfect free safety, elite speed. It's gonna no one's gonna take you deep, rangy, instinctual. I think he could show you that just like kind of like a Stubbs. This safety class is very loaded. Like pick your poison, in my opinion. Just kind of like the receiver. You could miss out on some guys, but there's probably 4 or 5 guys on the safety position you want to hit on. Bryce could play receiver. He shows those ball skills. Like I said, elite speed with playing that free safety. It's hard to take your team deep if you have that guy playing center field.
Coming back to a player on your team, Nashawn Montgomery. He's originally from Warwick, Rhode Island, a place that I spend time in the summer because our family's great friends live up there. The Ocean State, shout out to the Phipps family. But it's not the place where you necessarily find high-end football players, at least not in abundance. They've had some great athletes go through there, Kwity Paté, Will Blackman, but not in abundance. So he comes down here, plays in Palm Beach at I believe, Newman, right?
Yeah.
And now he's playing at Miami Central, Belly of the Beast, Dynasty, great competition. What can you tell me about Nashawn Montgomery and how he's adjusting to this level of competition?
I don't think the word adjust fits right. He just came in and played. At Newman, the ability to get him the ball wasn't there. That's why his film wasn't what people thought. That's why he's dropped in some of the rankings. He knows I'll tell him to his face. That's why he made the move to a big power program. He knows if he puts up, at least when they call on his opportunity, and makes plays, even if it's similar to what he did to Newman, but if he makes the plays that he did at Newman at a Central, it's going to boost his stock. He's, like I said, I have 50-50 monsters. You put the ball up in Nay's vicinity, he's going to float and get it. That's the word to describe to him. When he jumps, he floats. He has hang time, and he knows how to control his body. Now he's working with Schuler every day, who's one of the best, if not the best receivers coach down here. And I'm not saying that because he's my OC, but he teaches kids how to truly play the receiver position because he played it. He knows how to be successful at it. He did it at the next level. So I could see a big step in Nay's game this offseason where it's going to heat up. His recruiting will definitely get interesting down to the end, especially if he has the year that we think at Central.
It's never too early to look to the class of 26. I mean, I don't know how this guy gets the ball to all these receivers because we just went through a list and we didn't name everybody, but there's some outstanding receivers on this team. Want to talk about someone who I've heard has some Miami interest. I'm not going to ask you about that, but I've heard he does have some Miami interest from the class of 2026. The number one receiver in the nation, as I understand, for 2026, Aaron Gregory out of Augusta, Georgia. What can you tell me about him?
Yeah, on some sites, he's the number one receiver. On other sites, he's the number one athlete. You have Chris Henry in that class. Once again, a very special top-heavy class. But Aaron on most sites is number one at either athlete or receiver. I want to say he's a top 10 national prospect. And it goes to show, like you said, it's very hard for our quarterback to get the ball to all our guys, but he does a good job distributing it. Like in 7-on-7, when you have an all-star team, you kind of tell the guys, hey, there's some games that you're going to be the guy. There's some games that you're going to be the distraction. And there's some games that they're not going to look your way. But when that ball gets thrown your way, make plays. And when the ball gets thrown his way, he makes plays like all our receivers. It's not one guy just getting fed. All of them are getting dinked and dunked. And we are big playability. So if a guy's going deep, our guys start having fun. But Aaron's really trusted the process with us. He's a very, very hardworking kid. Comes from a great family. When we're looking at the D-money traits, I do consider that when it comes to recruiting. It has fallen under my rule of thumb. He checks off every box and hard work, well-spoken, great family. Moved from Augusta to Atlanta to play some better competition. Dominated this year, put up the stats that it was needed. Comes down, plays with us, makes plays when his name's called on, had some big touchdowns in day 2 for us. Coming down that stretch, we call him the leader of the new school for us because our team's all 2025 receivers. He's really the only 26 receiver we have on our team. But he's just an awesome kid to be around. Overall, great teammate. One thing, he is a rotating starter for us. Some games he starts, sometimes he's our 6th man, which Manu Ginobili is a Hall of Famer by being a 6th man. Next year it's his show, but the biggest testament to him. And I think in today's transfer society of kids waiting their turn, I think Aaron's learning a good lesson, and he's getting the ball. I'm not saying that he doesn't, but when you're highly ranked and have all the accolades and people kiss your ass, wait your turn. And when you wait your turn, it's going to benefit big time. And that's one thing I think I have to tip my hat off to Aaron is he's the number one receiver on the team, but we have 425 receivers. Some games he starts, some guys, he's the first guy right off the bench for us, which a guy goes deep. I'm talking about he's getting the same snap share as all these guys. But to say my sixth receiver right now is the number one receiver in the 26 class is an insane thing that people probably can't wrap their head around. But like I said, I tip my hat off to Aaron because he could easily have gone and jumped to another team for us, but he's waiting his turn. He waits for his number to get called. He'll be starting with us this weekend. He's definitely going to put on a clinic in Atlanta.
The Pat Riley of 7-on-7. You cut your hair. You got a nice little fade going on.
Yeah.
What went into that decision?
Just the time to. I go to too many weddings, as you joke, and spending too much money in gel products. Always having to get it ready. I'm ready in 5 minutes now.
That's why I do so many ads on this podcast. You know what I mean? I gotta pay the gel bill. Real quick on Gregory though. You know, all these, if you're a top 10 player, you have a superpower physically. What would you say is Aaron Gregory's superpower that really separates him and puts him in that high category?
For being as long as he is, how smooth his route running is. He's got all the route. Like I said, it's rare to find young kids with route trees. He's got the full route tree. He's growing into his body. He's got it. Like I said, Dallas, his untapped potential is so scary. You could see why he's a 5-star. You could see why he's ranked so high. I do believe he's going to take a massive step in his padded game at the end of this year just because of the hard work that he puts in. He's always training. Like we were in Tampa for a tournament. He stayed a day, a little bit extra because he had no school on Monday to work with a trainer in Tampa that's a big time wide receiver coach. So the kid's always looking to work his craft, and I'm so excited to watch his future because he is special. And like I've gone back to him and his family. They could have gone to another program. They're trusting the process. You could go be the man somewhere else. But what I sell my program is you got to be in college next year. You're the man at your high school. I'm going to put you on a receiving corps that's going to humble you no matter who you are. And I think I've done that with Dallas, Ney, Cortez. You learn not to get the ball every single time. And Aaron, and I think that's something 7-on-7 teams should be doing is you should be creating. We are South Florida based, but I have kids from Tampa. Aaron's from Atlanta. My quarterback's out of San Antonio. You have to prepare these kids for the next level and not sugarcoat shit and feed these kids egos. Hey man, you're going to go into a receiver. There's a reason that school's offering you. Everybody's just as good as you. What's going to be the difference when you step into that next level?
Beautiful. Well, listen, don't forget to like and subscribe to the Canes Insight podcast. We're going to keep you up to date on the recruitment of all these players. Already have an interview with Cortez Mills up on the site right now. Coach, real quick before I let you go, where can they follow Raw? Get your plugs in.
Raw 7v7 on Twitter, or now known as X, Instagram, TikTok. I appreciate you guys having me on. You know, I love being on here talking about the players, trying to just give them a platform to promote them, my program, and hopefully the Canes could do something this year. I know I'll be on before the season to give a little. We always have a little breakdown right before the season. So
yeah, we gotta get Kevin Beard with a Raw shirt, smoking a cigar after we get these kids signed to Miami. Let's get that one done. So, anyways, Coach, appreciate you
for sure. Thanks for having me on, D.